Hello and welcome to another episode of Crafting with the Desmond-Fish Public Library. Today's episode is brought to you from my living room floor because I needed an improvised light table, and I'll explain what that means in a moment. Today I am showing you another way to bring your drawings to life, and that is through the simple yet deeply satisfying, if my camera will focus on it, flip book. And that is when you draw a series of images, and when you flip between them, it makes it look like they move. So here I have a turtle that reaches out its head and chomps a lettuce leaf. Now, there are a couple of secrets to making a flip book, to making your character consistent enough to make its movement believable, and that is a light table. And the secret is you trace the same image over and over and just adjust what you want to be moving. Now, I, like most people, do not have a light table for tracing, so I have improvised one using my glass-topped coffee table right here and a bendy office lamp. So I've bent the lamp so it's under my table, and when I turn it on, suddenly, it's down, I can see through my paper to what is underneath. I get a sharper, clear image if I don't have this board here, but if I don't have this mat here, you will be very distracted by my excellent collection of board games instead of being able to see what I am doing. So the other things you're going to need for this project is some cardstock, and I'm just using some big sheets because that's what I have. You can just use a pack of index cards that are blank on one side. I didn't have any. And I cut mine down to a size that is 7 by 2.5. And the only reason I did that is because that cut down nicely with little waste from the 11 by 14 sheets I was starting with. But really, you just need something where you can hold and an area you can flip. And you're only going to draw in one part of it, because the other you're not going to see. From here you can see you never really see anything way back in there, so there's no point in drawing there. So I decided to do a turtle because I find them relatively easy to draw, and I wanted to start with something I was confident and didn't have too much detail since I was going to draw it 20 times. I have 20 cards here, and I think that makes a nice number to start with if you're just going to do a simple movement. So what I did is I just doodled turtles until I found one that I liked. Just drew a bunch of turtles until I found one that I liked, and until I found one that I thought would be simple enough to draw. So I am going to do this turtle. So the next step, since it's just in pencil, is to make it darker so I can see it easier through my paper. So I'm just going to go over my pencil lines with a pen. The other thing I needed for this story is a piece of lettuce. So I drew some lettuce until I decided I found one that I liked, and I made it darker. So I now have my two characters. If I turn on my light, boom, boom, I can now arrange them where I want them on my first card. The other thing I have done to help me be consistent with placement from card to card is I've made myself some guidelines. So I have a little line drawn here, and I've drawn it the same on every one of my cards, and that'll help me keep a consistent movement of the turtle. So the first thing I need to decide, where does the lettuce go? If I bend this down, move those away, you can see, let me move this further this way. The lettuce shows up through there. And I decided I wanted it about there from my page. The next thing I'm going to do, so I get it the same on every page since the lettuce doesn't move, is make myself a little guide. So now I know that my lettuce, that the edge has to meet this on the card, and that this tick here shows me where to match it up with my guideline. My guideline will show up. Let me make it darker. With my guideline. And if I have my guidelines in the same place on every card, it makes it really easy to line up my lettuce leaf so that my lettuce leaf shows up in the same place in every card. Then I pick the starting position for my turtle. And the nice thing is, once I have my leaf drawn, I can just sort of move my turtle around and be like, do I want him to start there? Do I want him to start there? And when I find where I would like him to start, I then trace. And this way, I'm just drawing it on nice and clean and straightforward onto my card instead of doing a lot of lines and erasing them until I have a turtle I'm happy with. Turn off my light table, and my turtle is now on my card. Now the next tip I have for making this whole thing go smoothly, and that's very important, is to number your cards. This is number 1. This will help keep them in order. Now that I have my first card, it's time to make the turtle start to move. So I'm going to take my next card. I'm going to label it number 2 so I can keep track. And I'm going to do it in the upper left-hand corner because you won't see that when it's finished. I have my guidelines. And I am going to turn my table back on and put card number 2 on top of card number 1. And now, if I move this around in a way that the camera will pick up, there you can almost see. That I have a turtle under here. So I'm going to draw the leaf in the same spot because it doesn't move. So I'm just going to trace it. And I decided to start with something simple. So the only part of the turtle that moves is its head. So I can just trace the rest of it. And then decide I want its head to move out a little bit. So if I want to keep tracing, I can actually just shift my top card a little bit, which moves where the turtle's head is underneath, and use that as a guide to keep the turtle's head consistent. So I now have my card number 1, and then card number 2, the turtle has stuck his neck out a little bit further. And the more subtle, the smaller increments the slower it moves, and the bigger changes, it makes it look like it moves faster. And that's all there is to it. You trace you put your new card on top of your last, you trace what you're keeping the same, and you just draw, new, or shift the small amount that you want to have move. And really, it's just a matter of repetition, so doing that over and over. I did 20 cards on mine. The other thing that's good to think about is pacing, is to think about what you want the complete movement to be. So I wanted my turtle to stick its neck out, bite the lettuce, and pull back a little. So I thought that the middle of that sequence would be being halfway down the chomp. And that helps me space out how far the movement to be. If I wanted something to move from one side to the other, when I'm halfway through my cards, I'd want it to be in the middle. And that just helps you see how far you have to move it each time if you're going to want it to make its complete movement. And then you end up with a stack of cards. The next step is to attach them to each other. And glue works really nicely. And if, like me, you are impatient and don't want to carefully put glue in between all of them, and also I find it helps if you have a little bit of extra at the end, what I did is I watered down some glue, poured it into just a dish from my recycling, and I dipped the ends of my cards into the glue because I wanted not just the very end, but quite a bit of it to be glued. And then when I wanted to get it in between the bits, I spread them out. So now I have glue between the pieces, and I'm just demonstrating spreading it out, but you would only dip one end of yours, not both ends. So this is the end I dipped last night. And to keep everything nicely aligned, I'm going to sort of get my cards lined up. And I'm going to clip them to keep them in position while they dry. The end that's all gluey, I'm going to wrap some wax paper over so that I do not end up gluing the clip to my project. The wax paper will peel off the glue, and then I clip it. And I want to leave myself a little bit of space. I don't want my clip to be right up against it with the wax paper, because then the glue won't dry. I want to leave space here for it to dry nicely. And that's easier to show you without the wax paper. The next day I come and my ends are all glued together. The trouble with this is it looks a little bit messy. I like things to look nice and neat, so I'm just going to cover it. I have some scrap construction paper here. I'm going to use a top corner. That way I know that these lines are nice and straight. I'm going to mark where it ends, and then I'm going to fold it up to take into account the thickness of it, and then fold it back down. And mark the end. That is my no measure method, where you just use your project as a template. And I now have a piece of paper that is sized to wrap around the end and be a bit of binding that hides my glue ends. A glue stick works best for this. I'm going to put glue on the front. I'm going to put down my cover. I'm going to bend it over onto the back. Now this is important. I'm going to glue the front and I'm going to glue the back, but I'm not going to put any glue here because I want this to be able to move as the pages go. And there, I have a nicely bound flip book that brings my drawing of a turtle to life as it moves. Now, a fun way to do this with kids is have them sort of draw and develop the character. Just like I drew a bunch of turtles, have them draw a bunch of whatever they want, and then have them pick which one to have move, ink it, and then you have your template that you move a little bit and you can make their character come to life. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have fun bringing your drawings to life. Thank you for watching.